Okay, so we've been running through quite a lot of information now, so we figured it would be useful to cover off some specific design tips in this end section. And these are some simple tips for creating neat effects in your graphics and in your web page designs that you can pick up and use. Now, I'll be using Photoshop for this part of the demonstration, but do remember, as I said earlier in the course, it's down to you to identify which tool is best for you given your needs. Don't rush out and buy Photoshop unless you know you're going to use it and you know you have the time to learn how to use it. So, first of all, I'm going to show you how easy it is to get an image and to drop it into our web page. So, first of all, what I'm going to do to that end is head over to Big Stock Photo, and as I showed you earlier on, I'm going to do a simple search. Let's do a search for man smiling computer, just to show you how we can pick up a variety of keywords once again, string them together, and have Big Stock Photo do the hard work for us, finding a smiling man sat at a computer. And we can scroll down and see if we can see anything that we like the look of that we could use as an image. I'm just looking for a nice, simple, clean image that we could use. Let's see. I want one where I can see the whole picture. One of the problems perhaps is that there's too much choice. Right, let's just go for a smiling face here. I'm going to select this image just by clicking once upon it, left clicking. And it's going to take me to a larger version of that image just to confirm that's what we want. So we've got a picture of a guy there sat in front of a laptop, that's fine. Note, I said that you could find images using the same model here. That's I could click on any of those and see a whole bunch of images using the same person, the same character. So if it was appropriate, I could use a variety of different versions of this image or this model doing different things, which would sort of tie the images together, give a good professional feel for the site. I'm going to select one of 3 different sizes of the image. You can see you can get various sizes, and each costs a different number of credits. So 1 credit in this case is roughly $1. And then I click the download button. And clicking the download button asks me just to confirm that I agree to the terms of use, which I do. It's fine. You might want to read that if you're signing up to Big Stock Photo. I have, so I can click OK. And then I just confirm the file size. Yes, once again, it's the 1 credit option I was after. So all I'm going to do is click the download now button and save the file. And that's going to save the file to my download folder. So here you can see it's downloaded successfully, and I can open that file from my my Explorer window. There it is in my download folder. I'm just going to basically call that into Photoshop right now. So let's just load up Photoshop. I can call up Photoshop here, and I can actually just drag this image from my folder onto the Photoshop workspace, and there it is. Okay, so I'm looking now at that image. Now, what I'm going to do, first of all now, having downloaded the image, I've called it into Photoshop. I'm going to refer back to my screen here and do a number of things. First of all, I'm going to crop the image. Now, when we're working with images, you can see perhaps from the image here right now, it's actually, if I go to full size, it's actually pretty big. So you imagine I'm looking at a web page right now, that's taking up way too much space. So the first thing I'm going to show you what we can do is how we can crop that image to take away some of the excess space, the stuff that we don't need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of some of this white space around this character here by cropping the image. And I'm going to do that, let's see, we'll crop it just beneath this laptop here, around there's fine. I'm going to take it up to just above his head, and basically what I want to do is keep the bit that's inside the box there. So all I'd need to do is go to Image, Crop, and that's it. It's cut the excess away. So there's a simple demonstration for how to crop an image. Now, remember, yes, I'm using Photoshop, but it's the same process pretty much in any application. So whether you're using GIMP or whether you're using one of the online tools, you'll find that it'll likely be in the image section of the menu there, and you can select the crop tool. There are also other tools, for example, the crop tool here I could use, which allows me to simply drag my mouse cursor, drag a box, and then hit enter, and it does the same thing as what I did from the menu. Okay, so 2 ways of cropping. What about resizing the image? Okay, it's one thing to actually crop the image, but how about resizing it so it's small enough to fit on my web page? I'm guessing that I would want this image at least, gosh, about 40%, 30 to 40% of the original size. Well, to resize, all I need to do is to go to Image, Image Size, and then we can adjust the size either as a percentage, say 30 or 40%, or I could specify exact pixels if I had an exact pixel width that I wanted to achieve. I'm going to go with 40% for now and just take a look at how that's panning out. That's not bad. I could go with that for now, and we'll see how that sits in the web page. It's certainly looking a bit more usable now as far as an image for a web page is concerned in terms of the size, the real estate that it's taking up. So that's resizing an image for you. What about color washing? Now, here's an interesting one. We were talking a moment ago about this theme, maybe picking up on a color theme, maybe somehow tying our images into that central color theme that we, in our demonstration, picked up from the header graphic. Okay, let's see how we can do that. If I call up the color picker tool in Photoshop, again, it's the same process in whichever application you use, and I just pop in that code that I grabbed when we were looking at that particular header graphic. I've entered the hex ref, the reference code that we grabbed. I click OK. Now, with that color selected, you can see it's at the foreground color in my color palette tool there on the left-hand side. I can go to Image, Adjust, Hue and Saturation. Okay, so far nothing's changed, but if I click Colorize, can you see that it's actually given a color wash to that image using that foreground color? Now, don't panic. If I click OK, are we going to want this blue person in our page? Probably not, but here's something cool. If I go to Edit and Fade Hue and Saturation, again, similar process in your design application of choice, I can actually fade that back. Okay, so I can go from not applied at all to fully applied, or somewhere in between. Now, what happens really well, it's not so good for this particular image, is that if you give it a 50 or 60% tint sometimes, just the process of applying that faint color wash can actually make your images tie together a lot better, particularly if you've got a variety of different images and you just give them all a little tint of the same color. It can make those images tie together perfectly. Okay, so using a color wash can be a great way of tying your imagery together. So that's color washing. Fades and vignettes. Okay, so what are fades and vignettes? Well, first of all, we can make the image fade away, fade back into the background a little bit pretty easily. All I'm going to do to start with is select white as my background color. Can you see I just clicked on the background color there? I can select white, or I could have color picked that color if I wanted to. And all I'm going to do is set Control A, which is to select all. So I held down the Control key and the A key on my keyboard together. That's selected the whole area. And then I'm going to go Control X. I could equally have gone Edit and Cut. You see Cut in the menu there. I could cut the image away. And with the image cut, I can then paste it back like that. Now, what's happened, you may notice, is in the top right-hand corner, I've got a background, which is white, and I now have a second layer. Okay, this second layer is the image that I just pasted back. Okay, so it's a separate layer. I can actually move that layer around, and can you see behind or underneath this layer is actually white. Okay, white space. It looks like it's sort of floating around, but it's just one layer moving on top of the other. If I want to now make this image fade back, I can go to the Layer, Layer Style, Blending Options tool, and from the pop-up window that appears there, I can select the opacity to take it back. Can you see the image is fading there? So if this was a background, let's say, to some bullet points, that sort of level of fade might be great because it's not going to detract too much from the text. However, if I just wanted to sort of have a subtle image in the page, didn't want it to be too overpowering, I could take it back to, say, 70% or 65%, and there we have a subtler image than the one we were looking at a moment ago. Okay, so that's a fade. That's making it fade back into the background color behind it, in this case white. How about, though, if we wanted to do a vignette? I'll explain what a vignette is right now. Let's just undo that fade, so we're back to square one. Okay, so the vignette is where the image sort of fades away on the vertical down to nothing. And the quickest way to do that with Photoshop is to basically erase a piece of the image. I'll show you what I mean right now. So we've got this layer selected here on the right hand side. I'm going to select the eraser tool. Again, you'll have this tool in your own toolbox for whatever graphics app you're using. I'm just going to erase a piece of the image just by literally sort of applying a paintbrush effect there. Now, can you see how that image now sort of fades to nothing? This is a great way of having an image in a web page that's a partial image. Okay, if it's a piece of a photograph like we have here, so it's a guy looking at a screen, but we don't want that sharp edge to the bottom of the image, then that's a great way to have images floating in the web page. It gives a really professional appearance and makes the images not so obviously cut out. Okay, so it's a bit more professional. Another method that you can use, we'll just drop back to the list here, is a simple Web 2.0 effect, a reflection. I'm going to show you how to do that too. First of all, I need to increase my canvas size. That is the canvas size on which this image is sat. I'm going to do that by increasing the height of the canvas to just 500 or so pixels. So I've got a white space now below this character. I'm going to select this layer just by right-clicking and selecting layer 1 because I know it's that layer, or I could have clicked it in the list of layers here on the right-hand side. I'm going to duplicate that layer just by going to the layer menu and selecting duplicate layer. And now you can see I've got two layers, layer 1 and layer 1 copy. And with layer 1 selected, I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical. I'm going to flip that layer, and I can move that layer now independently of the first layer up and down. Can you see all I'm doing there is just moving it up and down like that? And now I'm going to do those two things that we did before. I'm going to do a fade and I'm going to do a vignette. Okay, so remember the fade, we went to layer, layer style, blending options, and then we faded it back. Let's take it back to say, I don't know, 45% is fine. And I'm going to do the vignette effect to the same layer, which is to sort of rub away a big chunk of it. Okay, so now I've got what looks like a reflection. Okay, it looks like he's against a shiny surface, and the laptop and part of his suit jacket there are reflecting on that surface. So it's a really quick and easy way to get a Web 2.0 effect, a nice reflection, and something that's going to look great on the page. Well, I'm just going to finish that off by cropping away some of that excess white space. So there we have it. And there's our image now ready to be inserted into a web page. Pretty cool, huh? Before we insert it into the web page, however, we need to optimize it. We need to save that image off so that we can then select it and bring it into our website. How do we do that? Okay, in Photoshop, very simple. We go to File, Save for Web. And again, the application of your choice is going to have a similar process. Okay, so here we have the Save for Web dialog. Now, I can choose two up here to show the original on the left-hand side and the optimized version on the right-hand side. This is what optimization is about. If you look at the bottom, you can see the file size here, uncompressed, for that particular image is going to be 333K, which is huge in terms of file size. That's going to make my page load real slow. On the right-hand side, having selected a PNG file, a PNG file, you can see it's less than 90K. But 90K, it's still pretty big. So I'm going to suggest that in this particular instance, a PNG file is not appropriate. It's too big. So if I select in this demonstration a JPEG, straight away it drops to about 1/3 that to 33K. That's getting more like it, but I think I can still do better, because at the moment the quality setting over here is 90% of the original quality. Okay, so we don't need it anywhere near that. Watch, if I slide the actual value down and down and down, can you see that the image on the right really isn't degrading much, but the file size is going right down. It's gone down to 15K already, and I could keep going. If I went all the way, right the way down, you'll see, can you see now the image quality? That's too low. Going for really bad quality is not good enough. So you want to kind of go where you can kind of just can't quite see that there's any degrading in the quality. I'm going to go say 45%. And you really can't tell, if you're looking at those two images side by side, much difference between the quality, yet the file size on the one on the right is only a little over 10K. So we've taken that image by optimizing it down from 333 to 10, nearly 11K. Fantastic. So now we click Save. And let's just give this a sensible file name. Let's call this mancomputer.jpg. And that's it, we're done. We've saved that image in a super compressed format that we can now bring into our website design application of choice. Now, just to demonstrate inserting an image, of course, I'm going to use Excite Pro. Here we have Excite Pro. I'm looking at a sample web page, no particular copy of note. I'm just going to insert an image, and I do that in Excite Pro by clicking the Insert Image icon on the toolbar. And with the clip art library now loaded, I shall click the Select from Hard Drive button. And the browse window appears. I can select from the browse window the file that we saved. We can specify some alt text, and there's the image inserted into our web page, nice and simple. So how easy was that? Just in a matter of minutes, we've grabbed an image off Big Stock Photo, we've color washed it, we've done some effects, we've cropped it, we've resized it, we've even done a Web 2.0 effect on it, and now it's inserted into our web page. Simple, simple stuff. One other thing I want to show you, actually having inserted it in the web page, is flowing text around the image, because as you can see, there's a big white space to the right of the image, and we want the text to sit in that space. Very simple. All we need to do is to select the image, right click on it, image properties, and then from the image properties window that appears, we just select horizontal alignment left. That's it. Click OK, and there we have the text now floating to the right hand side of the image, nice and professional looking. Of course, that text isn't probably enough to warrant such a large image, so we might want to resize our image just by selecting it and dragging. Okay, so there we have a smaller image, but typically, as a rule, you want to make sure that the image you design is designed to the size that you need. It's not a good idea to have a larger image resized down. It's a waste of file size. We could have produced a smaller file with a smaller file size and dropped it in at exactly the right size if we'd wanted. So nice and simple stuff. So let's wrap up our design course right now. As we stated at the start of the course, design is important, but not as important as content. Don't prioritize it over the actual content on your site, the copy. Initially, you need to get that content right. Set clear business objectives and apply those as a check to everything you're thinking of doing. We made that point throughout this course. Always ask yourself the question, am I pushing toward meeting my business objectives? Don't just do design for design's sake. Piggyback, build a swipe file. Make sure that you keep that swipe file up to date, full of examples of good stuff that you found, headers, buttons, text, headlines, backgrounds, layouts, all of the stuff that you come across that you think, wow, great job. Make a note of it, put it in your swipe file, use a tool like Evernote to keep yourself armed with all sorts of good illustrations of stuff that works. Keep it simple, clean, and quality. We've hammered this point home, I know, in the different sections, but don't overstuff your page with graphics. Don't overfill it with color. Keep things nice and organized. Keep things clean. Keep it quality. Remember what we talked about in terms of the design supporting the content. It's the music score to your fantastic blockbuster movie, right? Think about what you're placing, where and why. Prioritize the correct elements in the correct places. Don't waste your valuable real estate, particularly above the fold. Choose the right tool for the right job. Don't waste your time and money on something that you don't need. We've given you plenty of tools that you can use, from free to very inexpensive to the top end tools. Make sure that you pick the right tool for the job. Don't be afraid to outsource. We've highlighted some great quality sources of third-party designers who can do anything from a small logo for you right through to a full site design. And what's great now is that even if you don't do the design yourself, you now, for having done this design course, you've got a much better understanding of what makes for good design. So you can better brief a designer should you decide to outsource. So whatever you do in terms of design from here, armed with the information in this course, it's going to be better thought out, more cohesive, and much more effective. All that remains for me to say now is thank you ever so much for watching this design course. I hope you've enjoyed it and benefited from it. Don't forget, we have 2 bonus modules accompanying this design course. One which tells you how to create great looking header graphics using our free X header software. Secondly, a module that shows you how to take a website design and to splice that design in your graphics package and bring that design into X-Site Pro. So how to create great looking custom X-Site Pro website templates. So do take some time to check those modules out. Thanks for watching. Take care for now.